Good morning. My name is Maria Chipandeni, and welcome to the conduct classes of of 22 July 2017. This is actually Natural Science and Health 2. So what I will do, it's actually this conduct class is based on subject content, but I'll also give you some guidelines with regards to the exam that is coming up now in August 2017. So I must tell you that I'll discuss some of the guides or some of the topics in the guideline just in order to help you prepare for the exam. But as you know, because of time, I will not give you all the information, or I will not give much more in details on each and every unit in the guideline. But because I know you are a very hardworking students and you have completed the assignments, and I'm of the opinion that you have also studied the guidelines systematically. So I guess you have a good idea of what this course is all about. I'll actually I will not give you the scope of the examination, but as I said, I'll just give you some hints on how to prepare for the exam. So as you know, just to give you an overview of this course, Natural Science and Health 2, it actually consists of 15 units that range from physical, mental, emotional, and social developments that humans go through. And then there is also a unit that talks about self-esteem, the behavior of adolescents, and it also touches on peer pressure, alcohol or substance abuse, and in that content there is also issues on how to deal with emotions. And we have another topic. I'm giving you this topic so that you can actually go through each and every topic. We have another topic of scientific process, and this topic addresses the issue of apparatus or the equipment that we use in the lab to perform scientific processes. And there is a topic on properties of sunlight, matter forces that operate in our lives. And one other unit is on magnets, and these magnets, it covers the properties of magnets, the uses and the magnetic field patterns. And water in that unit, you gather to be informed about the properties of water, the uses of water, and then water cycle, the pollution of water, and as well as the purification strategies on how to make water drinkable. And there is wind, a topic on wind. That topic actually covers the positive and negative effects of wind, the sources of air pollution, and the impact that this air or wind got on the lungs of living beings. And there is also a unit on plant, and with that, it covers the topics of how plants are categorized as living organisms, and issues of monocotyledons and dicotyledons, and then touches on photosynthesis. And then the animals are actually groups in different groups, and so it touches on the groups of animals, the criteria that are used to classify these animals, and these are actually scientific criteria that the scientists are actually used to classify animals. There is on topics on life cycle. As we know, different animals go in different life cycles. So if you get into this unit, you get to know the life cycle of different animals, their values, and how we should care for the animals. And then there is a topic on human being, different systems of breathing, respiration, as well as circulatory system. It's more about the human body. And we have another topic on ecosystem that tackles of the ecosystem abiotic and biotic factors. and the food chain as well as food web, how we interact with it, with plants and animals, how do they interact with each other. And then there is human activities that influences ecosystem negatively. Like how do we influence the ecosystem negatively, or how do we contribute to the negative on the ecosystem. There's also now a topic on teaching. As we know, teachers will need to know how the different methods or methodologies that we can use in order to pass on the knowledge to our learners. So each and every unit got its own learning outcome and activities. And so when you preparing for the exam, just try to make sure that you understand, or you first need to know what is the learning outcome of the topic or that you are actually going to study, and try to do all the activities within that that unit, so you'll be much more ready for the exam. So with this learning outcome and the activities, it helps you and prepare very well for the exams, as you get to understand or to focus on the main content of the unit. So with that, let's tackle or talk about some of the topics that I thought they are of importance. These are actually my selection was actually based on when I'm marking assignments, for instance, I get to pick up some of the issues or some of the questions that I find that you are having difficulties actually answering properly. So one of the issues is how to deal with emotional difficulties. As you know that learners actually go through physical changes, mental and emotional changes, as well as social changes. And with these, they tend to have some, develop some mechanisms or coping strategies that will help them go through the difficulties or emotional difficulties that they are faced with. So, and in some cases, you tend to see that they get to be antisocial if they are going through these changes like puberty, or they become more aggressive behaviors is also observed in these cases, where they tend to be more protective of themselves. So, but we are saying that there are some practical coping strategies that teenagers should include or should take into account. So what we should help them with is that we have to remind them that they're not alone, and all adults have gone through the same processes that they are going through. Or so is there are also classmates, they go through the same process. And we also have to inform them that they can be better prepared for puberty and what is expected, what is to be expected by reading about it. So we must make sure they have these reading materials available to them, so they'll be better prepared for puberty. And they can share information and worries with their close friends or trusted friends, and they can also speak to trusted adults or professional who knows about about adolescence, and when they feel awkward about something or that they have a problem with. So tell them to talk to someone, engaging in helping others or creative activities like writing and drawing and painting. Keep them busy with what they like doing with their hobbies, and let them get more exercise and get involved in sport. So apart from that, there is also issue of self-esteem. Self-esteem is like how they judge themselves or how they actually feel about themselves. There are actually factors that influences self-esteem, and these factors include the social comparisons. Most of the adolescents or learners, they tend to compare themselves with others. So social comparison is one of the important factors that influences child self-esteem. The personal achievement, what is their personal achievement, how and their peer relationship, because they want to be associated to a certain group and to have friends. So peer relationship, athletic capabilities, changes in school, teachers, etc., that influences their self-esteem, culture, gender stereotype, expectations, and parent experiences. Those actually influences their self-esteem. And it's very important that this that this self-esteem actually affects how they behave. It affects their behavior as well as their emotions. Some learners tend to have either a higher self-esteem or low self-esteem. And people with low self-esteem, they tend to be very isolated, very antisocial. They tend to be withdrawn. And people with high self-esteem, they tend to be more active and more involved in activities. So how to address adolescents to handle their behavior, or how to help them deal with their emotions. So in the educational context, teachers have to be sensitive to learners' emotion and foster a relationship of understanding and acceptance. So you have to help these adolescents handling their emotions by letting them talk about their feelings. Let them talk about how they feel, whether they are angry, happy, surprised, embarrassed, or so disgusted or sad. Let them talk about their feelings and try to display a sense of humor, being supportive, and provide them opportunities to cry. If they want to cry, just give them that opportunity to cry and provide the opportunity to release up emotions through physical activities. So these are some of the ways in which you can help adolescents handle their emotions. And we have issue of peer pressure. And peer pressure can be either negative or it can be positive. The benefit of doing things in peers or positive peer pressure is like they develop social skills. It enhances relationship and gain sense of belonging as they have a certain group or they have friends. So they are also motivated to achieve by from their peers, and learn. They actually tend also to learn leadership skills and communication skills, and be more cooperatives, and to have some roles and within their groups. So, but there are also negative peer pressure where they tend to be involved, maybe alcohol abuse, stuff like that, because of these of the peer pressure. So with that, we need to assist learners, or they assist learners in how to resist negative peer pressure. So how learner could respond to negative peer pressure is like, we need to let them know they should always listen to their gut and plan for possible pressure situation. Arrange bailout code phrase that they can use, like when they are faced with negative peer pressure, and learn to feel comfortable by saying no. So they have to know how to say no and set that boundaries. And they hang with people who feel like they have the same way of doing things, the same way of thinking, that they're not pressurized in doing things that they're not they don't want to do. So also blame, they can also have that bailout code, like my mom or my dad won't be happy with that, so if we find that I'll be in problems, so they can use those phrases. And if the situation it seems to be dangerous, so they can also just let them inform their parents or get an adult help to get some assistance. So, and we have another one of preventions of alcohol, or the issue of alcohol abuse. Apart from teaching, as you know, that sometimes either learners or their parents are involved in alcohol abuse, and this alcohol abuse is actually becoming a very big issue, and people have different reasons of abusing alcohol, and these the alcohol abuse actually affect or have a very it impacts on the health as well as the life of people. So apart from imparting knowledge, we also need to impart skills on assisting peer pressure. School programs can develop or can help to establish the preventions of alcohol or substance abuse in the following way. They should be involved in reducing social acceptability of drug taking, emphasizing on health and safety. They should actually also provide appealing activities such as drug-free dance or sport activities, prevent program that list a program for at least teenager teaching effective strategies for handling life stresses or build competence through community services, offer academic as well as vocational training to improve life success, offer treatments and support group sessions, and involve them involve of high school learners as peer educators on how to prevent alcohol abuse. Then we have the scientific process, and scientific process we have lab equipment. So what this topic is about, you should be able to identify laboratory equipment that can be used in running laboratory processes, and like the beakers, what is it used for, the flask, what do they use it for. So you need to know the equipment, be able to identify these equipment that we use in the lab and what is their main uses. So, and we have scientific processes like decanting, filtering, and distillation. These are some of the scientific processes. So, like in the lab, the simple ways of decanting is just to separate like solid and liquid materials. You can have them in the lake hanging on the 45 degree, and then that the liquid will be on top, and then you'll be able to filter, or to the solid material stays on at the bottom. So, and you should also be able to explain the process of distillation, especially this one that is used in the lab. So you should be able to explain or to demonstrate to learners on how these processes are used, or how you can apply these processes. We have a topic on sunlight, and as you know, sunlight in our eyes, it appears as white light, but it can be separated into different colors. It can be separated either using a prisma, a compact disc, or a drop of oil on water. So, and as we say, they have different colors like red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet, and it's because of the heat that is or the light hitting the glass on an angle, and you have a reflection of light. So, and which color comes first, that actually depends on its wavelength. So with this topic, you should be able to demonstrate or do an experiment in class on how to separate colors using the prisma, as given here. So the prisma, and then you have, with that experiment, you need a prisma, and then you need a projector screen, and the light source, as well as a slide. So what it does is that you should be able to explain the methodology on how it happens that you get to separate colors instead of white light, to have them in different colors. So, and you know that rainbow also display the white color, so you need to know how the rainbow is formed. It's like more of the light refraction and magnification, as well as depending on where the angle of the sun, and the angle of the sun. And we have forces. There is pushing or pulling forces, and these forces affect, or the effect of pushing and pulling, it's like forces actually can move a stationary object, like when you hit a golf ball, so it goes back, so it's able to move a stationary object. And they can also change the speed of moving object, can stop moving object. If you, like, for instance, a person is catching a rugby ball, change the directions of moving object and change the shape of. These are just effect of pushing and pulling factors. We have an issue of water purification, because we have water, and this topic will cover the water sources of water pollution. Some water tend to be contaminated with microbes, or either organic or inorganic waste. And to make it drinkable, we need to purify water. So there are different purification techniques, like iodine, chlorine, or filtrations, boiling and distillation. So you just need to know the techniques that can be used to purify water, or to make water drinkable. And plants, you know, we have different classes of flowering plants that can either be monocotyledons or dicotyledons, and these plants are actually different on their flower, or the leaf pattern are different, the stem is different, the pollen and the seed leaves. So what you need to know here is just to be able to differentiate between dicotyledons and monocotyledons. Like, for instance, when it comes to embryo, the dicotyledons has two cotyledons, while the mono is actually got one cotyledons. And then you have leaf venations. The dicotyledons have more branched. As you can see in this picture here, you have a net-like leaf vein, but with the monocotyledons, they have more of parallel leaf vein. And then we have the flowers. They differ in flowers. The cotyledons have petals in multiplications of 4 or 5, but in monocotyledons, it's a multiplication of 3. And we can give an examples of dicotyledons, like legumes, those that are classified as dicotyledons, and monocotyledons like grains, like look at the wheat, the corn, or millet. So those are in the classes of monocotyledons. And also they differ in root patterns. They have or more of tape roots when it comes to dicotyledons, and monocotyledons actually have more fibrous roots. As I said, what you need to know here is to be able to differentiate the features of monocotyledons and dicotyledons. And we have another topic on classification of animals. As we know that animals are classified in different groups, whether it's amphibia, fish, or etc. So scientists actually have a way of classifying animals into groups. They look at the backbone, whether it's got a backbone or it doesn't have a backbone. There's symmetry, which is arrangement of the body, whether it's asymmetric, bilateral, or lateral, where the asymmetric is like a mirror of the other. When you put, it's like a mirror reflection of the other part. So, and they look at the internal features, or as well as the external features of these animals, just to actually categorize them and their behavior patterns, which is more on on what it eats, whether it's a carnivores, herbivores, or omnivores. And by these chains, I can actually with confidence say that you already know the differences between carnivores, herbivores, and omnivores. And on air pollution, this is issue is about how actually impact, or the impact of air pollution on human being. So the topic I took from here is on how sustained exposure of polluted air and smoke actually can damage the lungs. So with long-term exposure of air pollution, that can actually lead to chronic respiratory diseases, lung cancer, and other diseases. And smoking actually destroy the tiny hair which actually line up the airways and that protect our lungs against infection. When our lungs' natural cleansing and repair system is damaged, so those dirties and the germs and chemical from the cigarettes can actually stay within the lungs. And this smoking can also permanently damage the air sacs in the lungs and making it very hard to breathe. And I just put a picture here to illustrate how the healthy lungs look like as compared to the diseased lung tissue. There is another topic on ecosystem, and with this topic, as I said from the beginning when I was explaining the units, we have how the biotic and abiotic factors actually interact. In this topic, we also talked about the food chain as well as food web. So, but however, we have human activities. There is an issue of how human activities actually influences the ecosystem negatively. So some of these activities are actually agriculture, industry, mining, and fishing, depending on at what extent that some of these activities are done, they actually can influence ecosystem negatively. That's why we always have environment assessment in order to just check how a certain project can influence the environment. So how do we prevent the destruction of habitat and preserve biodiversity? So we need to reduce and eliminate use of household chemicals. We need to reduce waste and reduce the amount of waste we produce and reduce the carbon print, and try to grow our own food and grow sustainably. So what is important, before I round up, I just want to make important notes when it comes to your August exam. The exam is actually structured in a way that it got short questions, which are more of defined, listing, and distinguishing or comparing kind of questions. They have an essay type of questions where you have to explain or discuss. And this exam is a total of 130 marks. So as I said at the beginning, please pay attention to your learning outcome and of every unit of your study guide, and use your study guide to prepare for the exam. And you can also check your assignment questions on how these questions are structured. Read the instruction very carefully, and try to practice from as a teacher, I always use practical examples when necessary to strengthen your answers. When you're asked something, try to give some kind of example in order to convince the person or the teacher that you understand your answer, or you understand the question. So provide sufficient answers, but that means you don't have to write too much or to write too little. So check the marks that are allocated to determine how much you should write, and please write neatly so that the person going to mark as I'm marking your exam, must be able to read. It should be readable. So, and I say thank you very much and good luck for your exam.